Alright, so this is Shay again, back here with another little Illustrator video for you. I showed you in the last one kind of the basics of creating basic shapes in Illustrator. Now I want to just kind of introduce you to using text in Illustrator. It's not, again, too different from what we did in InDesign, but there are more things you can do. So on your toolbar here, you'll see the text or the type tool. And if you click on that, you'll see other tools that are type related. I'll get into those later. But this is the basic type tool. What you do is you click, you select the tool, and you'll see the icon for the cursor changed to with it's like a little insert bar for text, and you click, and you can start typing. Test text is what we'll use here. So you've got that selected. When you go back to your direct selection or your selection tool, select it, you'll see it's on this line here. Okay, this point represents where the text is set, kind of where it starts. What you can do is there's a paragraph palette, and you can see it's set to left align. If I click center align, you'll see that now this point is the center of that text, and the right align will set it again to the right. So that may come in handy later, just to know that if you want to type your text and keep it centered, uh, that's the way you want to set your alignment in the paragraph palette. And again, all these palettes can be accessed from the window menu if you need to, if they're not visible initially on screen. So I've set the text. What we can do is go to the character palette, and just as you can in InDesign, you can click to scale the type and the font size. You can enter a value by double clicking. You can change the tracking, which is the space between each letter, by clicking or enter a value. If you want to change the leading, you of course need two lines, but then you should be able to select it and change the leading. So those all work pretty much the same way you use them in InDesign. Now, if you set your type and want to change it with the selection tool, you can't really do anything other than move it. So you just highlight or the type tool and click where you want to make your change, and I'm going to remove that paragraph return and add a space back in. Okay, and add two spaces. So that's how you kind of jump around and edit those again. So that's your basic text manipulation. You'll set your font here like you do anywhere pretty much. So you can change your characters up at the top. You can change them in the character palette. And so there's that. You can mix text or character or fonts within. If I select that and change it, just that word, I can mix fonts within a single item. Okay, I'm going to undo that. Some other things you can do is, or some other things you can do are, uh, okay, something else you can do with text is just like any object in Illustrator, you can assign it a color and you can assign it a stroke. All right, so I've got this blue color and I've got this outline in a lighter blue. The stroke size is 1 point, 2 point. You can click and change that. Okay, so we've got our text and we've got a color and an outline, a fill color and a stroke. That's kind of the most you can really do just typing text. You can do some other things, but really what I tend to do with something like logo design, where I'm going to manipulate the text, I like to take the text and under the type menu, create outlines. Then what happens is, instead of text, just like we've done in InDesign, if you go to the View Outline uh, menu, and if you look, now you'll see when I select this, these letters are all made up of points. They're no longer text, a text item you can edit. So, you know, you want to spell check and proofread everything before you do something like this. But once you've gotten these converted to type elements, and this is really handy in logo design because you're not using a bunch of text. You might have a word or two and, you know, a handful of letters. So you can kind of play around a little more. We know that if you get the direct selection tool, you can click and drag a point. If you click on a line, you can actually drag just that line. If you click like directly between 2 points, you can grab that line and move that line instead of having to go in and shift select multiple points, which you can do. If you want to select multiple points, you just hold down the shift key and click on those points, and you can select as many points as you need to. And then you can start to manipulate those. This is handy because you might want to take a font and kind of alter it and edit it and make your own version of it. Like say I want to do something where this is connecting into that S a little bit, and maybe this T, and just start to kind of overlap these things and just kind of play around with what that font might look like. Um, just some things like that. You can just do these real kind of subtle changes. So all I'm doing is you can drag to select a point. Just click outside of it and drag. You can select multiple points by shift or by clicking and dragging. You can constrain the way you move it up and down so it kind of snaps into place there. All right, so this is just kind of reshaping this font really quickly to give you an idea. If we go back to the GPU preview, what we'll see is all these are now starting to overlap. If we take that stroke off of that by having it selected, take the stroke, and to remove the stroke, again, you can click up here and click the box with the diagonal red line, and that will remove it. Or in the bottom of the tool palette, there are some places to change fill and stroke. So with the stroke highlighted in the front, like this is your stroke, this is your fill, whichever one of those is in the front, which is indicated by this corner overlapping, that's the one you're about to edit. So if you bring that stroke to the front, you can click None, take that stroke off. Okay, and now you've started to kind of create this object out of this text. Then I can work, and what you can do is you can grab these. Well, let me show you. We've converted these to an outline. Okay, so they're all a single object still. That means they're grouped together. What you want to do to be able to manipulate them individually is if you get the direct selection tool, one way you can do it is with the direct selection tool, click on it. It highlights just the shape you've clicked on. You can see that with the points, and then you can drag that and move it. Okay, so you can do that by getting the direct selection tool and kind of playing around with that. And then once you're done, it's still one object that you can move with the selection tool. Another way to do that is if you select the object, once you've converted text to an outline that's grouped, so you can ungroup it. Then what you can do is you can take all these with your selection tool and move them. And then you can begin to kind of reshape and build and rework your text this way. So that's what happens when you ungroup the text. They are now individual objects that you can edit and kind of play around with. You can give them, you know, individual colors and all that. So That's something you may want to do. Now, what I find helpful is once I've got a group of letters into a shape, a design that I like, I'll go back in with the selection tool. You can click and drag to enclose all of those. Now you'll see they're all highlighted with a square. You can see their points, so you see the outline of all of them. It's highlighted. So you can select them all that way. Or you can hold down the Shift key with the selection tool. And so Shift click on each shape, and that will allow you to select multiple shapes. Once you've got them selected, go to the object menu and group. Now they're a group again. Okay, so it's much easier if you need to move it on the page. It's much easier to just grab that group and play around with it. Okay, so that's kind of the basics of text and working with text. The key is, for me, you pick a font that gets you where you want to go and start with, and then you have the freedom to go in and kind of play around and recreate or alter and edit that font after you have gone in and created outlines from it. So again, to do that, you will get the text tool and you will type in your word, and then you can go in and go to type, create outlines. Now it's an object that you can go in and edit points. Oh, I did want to show you something real quickly. Those of you new using Illustrator 2015, you'll notice that when you use the direct selection tool to select a shape, these little round dots here in the corners, what those do, those allow you to grab and round off those corners. Okay, so you can kind of alter things that way. If I just grab them or grab one, it will change them all. And it does that because all of these points are selected. They're all blue, solid blue. So with all the points selected, you can click and drag and it'll affect all of them. If I click on one point only and then drag, it can affect just that corner of that point. So that kind of allows you some other really nice ways to kind of go in and reshape your text too. That's only available to any of you using, I believe, Illustrator 2015. But that's another way you can kind of manipulate text and play around with it. So that's kind of just the basics of this. I'll do another one here in a little bit on the pen tool, and then I'll kind of show you the process that I use to create a logo in Illustrator. I'll take you through and I'll draw a logo from start to finish, from thumbnails to finish. That'll be a longer video. But that's just some stuff I'm playing around with the type tool. And if you all need another video, like a deeper dive video into some of this stuff, more explanation, I'll be happy to make them for you. If you know, how do I do this, let me know, and I'll show you how to do that. Hopefully these will help you kind of get into Illustrator. It's a lot more powerful than InDesign in terms of designing logos and branding and working with creating images. It's really geared for this type of work. So that's all for this video. There'll be a couple more. Be sure and watch them. Hopefully you'll find them helpful. And like I say, just let me know if you want a video covering a specific task, and I'll throw together a video and put it up here so you all can check that out. All right, bye.